are. 1 second. We are on 85b, the last 3 words of the first line. I heard a gate opening, so maybe we'll wait 1 minute. Yeah, basically the Gemara went through a whole back and forth if a son could be the messenger to administer lashes or a certain level of a curse when the father is either deserving of lashes or put into excommunication. So the Gemara says, "Mai havi Allah." What was the conclusion? How do we conclude? Amar Rabba bar Huna v'chein Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. So both Rabba bar Huna and in the academy of Rabbi Shmuel, they said, "Lakol ein haben nase shaliach la'aviv." They say that a ben cannot be a shaliach for his father. Lahakosu ulekalo. Conclusion is he can't do it, not allowed to, except for one case. Chutz mi mesis. We know mesis is that terrible person that attempts to get people to go and do avodah zarah. And there, the Torah and the Gemara learns out time and time again from this verse: Lo sachmol, have no pity on him. But lo sechasalav, don't try to find any merits. His act is so bad. So there we allow if a person's father it's interesting what the case of if the person's father's a mesis, try to get people to go off and do avodah zarah, so there the son is allowed to administer punishment to him. Good morning, Jules. We finished the daf already.
Oh, good.
We're doing tomorrow's daf. That was a perm joke.
Yes, happy Pi Day.
Okay. St. Louis Cardinals hat. Very good.
Happy Pi Day.
Okay, so we are at the next Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, "Hamaka aviv ve'imo," a person, God forbid, hits his parents, his mother or his father. He's not going to be liable to death until he makes a chabura. Achiyase ben chabura. Chabura, he has to make a bruise. Either he has to remove blood. That's probably the simple reading. Maybe also if he has blood rise to the top, like a black and blue mark. But let's just say simply he has to cause a bruise, has to remove some blood. Says the Mishnah, Zech Homer b'mekalel mi b'makeh. There's a stringency that cursing a parent has that hitting a parent does not have. What is that? Shehamekalel yachar misa chayiv. To curse a parent after death, one is liable. And hamakel achar misa, to go to the dead body and hit it, that you're exempt. So it's interesting, there's a note on the side here from one of the Rishonim that cursing, that causes damage to the father's neshama, the parent's neshama. Hitting causes only damage to the body. Very interesting. The power of a curse, that it's somehow in Shemaim, it has the power to affect the neshama. So that's still around after death. But the actual body is, it's a dead body. So says 85b, first Gemara. Here's the Mishnah.
Yeah.
So first Gemara, right there.
Oh, right there.
Right there.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Tanu Rabbana, Aviv ve'imo Kollel. So now it says if a person curses his parents, and it says a person curses his father and his mother, he'll surely be killed. And then it repeats itself. It says Aviv ve'imo Kollel damavo. If he curses them, so blood will be on him. He'll also get killed. So Aviv ve'imo Kollel yachar misa. So sheyachol. So now why do you have to do? We finished off. There's another one. There's always another one. Very good. So you have to know that the Torah repeats repeats in that one pasuk at the end of the pasuk, end of the verse. It repeats. Why? To teach you that even after death, you are liable. So now the Gemara is going to bring two reasons why you would have thought you're not liable, and then say you are liable. So why would you have thought you're not liable? Well, Sheyachol, you would have thought Ho v'chayev b'makev v'chayev b'makalel. We compare the two, cursing and hitting. Ma'makenu chayev elamechayim. Just like hitting, you're only liable when the parent is alive. So too, afa mekalel eno chayev elamechayim. That's one reason you would have thought if someone who cursed is compared to someone who hits a parent, and just like hitting is only when the parent's alive, but then so too, cursing would also be only when the parent is alive. That's one. Two, v'od kal v'chomer. Learn a kal v'chomer. U'ma makeh she'asabo shelo ba'amcha ki ba'amcha. So when it comes to hitting, it has no stipulation over there of you're only not allowed to hit somebody who's officially, part of the fold. He's part of Amcha, part of the Jewish people. Doesn't say that. It doesn't specify that. By cursing, it does specify that. It says lo sikal or ba'amecha, has someone who's ba'amecha. We saw someone who's liable for death. The Gemara at one point thought that you're not liable if you curse him. They did something which took him out of the fold. But by hitting, it doesn't have that stipulation. So therefore, just like hitting somebody, just like we equate a Jew who did a terrible thing and is no longer, so to speak, in the fold, to a Jew who's a good Jew. Hitting both of them is prohibited, and yet we see lo chayev bo lachar misa. But after death, there's no prohibition to go hit them. I mean, there's probably a prohibition, but not one that's liable on this level. I'm sure it's a disgrace to the deceased, and it's not good. One shouldn't do it. But in terms of this prohibition of getting killed, so that we don't say is liable after death. Mikala, someone who's cursed, that is so severe, that Mikal, which is a little bit more lenient, it's only cursing somebody who is part of the fold. So Eino din shelo chayev bo la'achar misa. So for sure there, which is more, it's more makel, it's more lenient, because Mikal cursing only applies to somebody who's in the fold. So if hitting somebody, which is something which is applies across the board to any Jew, whether he did something wrong, didn't do something wrong, you can't hit him. And yet we see that after he dies, there's no prohibition on this level to hit him. For sure, cursing somebody, which is more lenient in a certain way, because it only applies to people that are still in the fold, for sure that should not be liable after death. To that, the Torah tells us, Talmud Lomar, it repeats, Aviv ve'imo kilel. Why is it repeated? To teach you la'achar misa. So in that one verse in the Torah, it says someone who cursed their parents, and then it says it again, they'll be killed. So what's the second one teaching you? Even if you curse them after death. Okay. Now, this took on one assumption. The assumption was that last part of the verse is available for interpretation because it's extra. But if you hold it's not extra, you're going to need another source to teach you that cursing a parent after death is prohibited. So that's where the Gemara is heading now. Hanichel Rabbi Yonasan. This is good for Rabbi Yonasan. Demaiser lekra avi ve'imo. He understands that avi ve'imo, the end of the verse is extra. So if it's extra, what's it teaching you? What's the second warning to not curse your parents for? Oh, must be even if you curse them after death. Okay. Ela le Rabbi Yoshia, Michael and Meimar, but Rabbi Yoshia, we're going to see in a second, does not have that ability to learn out that repetition because he already used it for something else. So according to him, we're going to be searching what's the source that someone who cursed their parents after death is prohibited. So now let's see where they're both coming from. The Tanya says the Brisa ish. It says in Vayikra ki ish asher yikal as aviv es imo. So this is our verse. It says a person who curses their parents, his father and his mother, he'll surely be killed. His father and his mother, if he curses, he'll surely be killed. So let's see what each one does with that verse. Ish. So what's the double ish, man? What's that for? What's it teaching me? Ish l'rabois ba tumtum ve'androgynous. It's including someone who's a tumtum or an androgynous, meaning somebody who either has both symptoms, a male and a female symptom, or we don't know what it is. It's hidden. We don't know what it is. He's also going to be liable for cursing his parents. That's the extra ish. It's interesting why you would need an extra pasuk for that. Like, who cares what you are? The problem is the parent got cursed, right? So as long as the parents produced you, I don't really care what you are. Both, some, we don't know, but you did something wrong. It's interesting that we need an extra verse to teach you that even these groups of individuals will be liable for cursing their parents.
The fact that he was begotten is
Right, exactly. As I'm saying, the fact that he was born is enough of a reason why you cannot curse your parents. Who cares that you were born and we don't know if you're male or female? Who cares if you're born and you have both? Like, what is that? But okay.
Yeah.
So during Perm today, you'll come up with an answer. So, that's right. So a little more wine and we'll get an answer. So the question is, the answer is going to be true or not. But so, okay. So that's the first part. Ish. Asher yikalel es aviv ve'es imo. That's the first part of the verse that says if you curse the father and the mother. So now the question is going to be, you have to curse them when they're together, or you're even liable if you curse them on their own. So, yeah. So let's see. So ainli ela aviv ve'imo. You see aviv ve'imo. The Torah puts them right together. So aviv shelo imo shelo aviv. It doesn't mean a father that's not your mother. That's how you would read it one way, but it means a father when he's not with the mother, or a mother when he's not with the father. Meaning, how do you know that you're liable even when you curse them individually? Meaning, you could have understood the Torah required that the highest level of a curse that gets you the death penalty is both of them. We have three, they both contributed to you. Maybe both of them at once. That's like, it says the Gemara, no. Meaning, aviv, it says aviv ve'imo kilel. It repeats it again. Repeats it. Why? Aviv kilo, imo kilo. Whether you curse your father or you curse your mother, both of them you're liable. That's Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. So right here already you see, Rabbi Yoshia needs the latter half of the latter half of the verse, the one that's repetitive, to teach you something else, to teach you that you can curse your father individually and your mother individually, and you're liable. So according to him, we don't have a source right now that you're liable for cursing after death of the parents. That's all the Rabbi Yoshia. Now, just to finish off the brisa, Rabbi Yonas and Omer mashma shneyan ke'echad u'mashma echad ve'echad b'fnei atzmo. Achi far l'chakasav yachtav. So, unless the Torah tells you yachtav together, like it does in other places, we are going to assume that it doesn't necessarily have to be together. And therefore, since in the beginning of the verse it says father and mother, and it doesn't say the word together, just as father and mother, you can assume whether they're together, whether they're not together, both cases you're liable, which means that he has the latter half of the verse available for interpretation, to which he learns out that if you curse after death, you are going to be liable. Okay. So now, okay, fine. So that's that. Now, yeah. So now, minole nafkale mivakal aviv ima mos yumas. So minole nafkale. It teaches you, that one's going to surely be killed for cursing their parents. Exactly. So he has that extra part, right? So now he learns. So that's all good for Rabbi Yonas. And Rabbi Yoshia, we're looking for a source. So we go to a pasuk in Shmos Chaf Aleph, and there it says, there is another place in the Torah that it says, cursing a parents, you get killed. What's that extra pasuk for? It's not, so right now we have three places, twice in Vayikra and once in Shmos, talks about cursing your parents. So Rabbi Yoshia will say, the one in Shmos teaches me that the parent after death, you're going to be liable for. The Idach, Rabbi Yona's son, who already learned that out from the verse in Vayikra, what does he do with the verse? Idach hahu mibayile l'rabos bas tumtum ve'androgynous. So this is coming to include the daughter of a tumtum and an androgynous, that I guess cursing those parents is also going to be prohibited. So okay, no,
It was a tumtum,
what is that?
not a tumtum androgynous daughter of a
Oh,
daughter. It's
The person
daughter.
themselves are tumtum androgynous.
We need to include a daughter, a tumtum, and an androgynous. That's all three.
Oh, all three. Sorry, thank you. The Rabbos Bas, tumtum androgynous. Yeah, very good. To include a daughter, she's also liable, not just a son. Also interesting why that should be tumtum androgynous and or tumtum and an androgynous. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So okay. So now says the Gemara of a tepok lema ish ish, but the other opinion already learned tumtum and androgynous from the words ish ish. It included it. Says the Gemara, a concept that comes up numerous places. It says dibra Torah kol adam. Every so often the Torah writes things in a certain way for man to in a more human way, and therefore the fact that it repeats it, you can't interpret from there. That's the way that humans, so to speak, understand it. Ish ish, yeah. I mean, ish ish. It's dibra Torah kol adam. It's just speaking more in a human language. Okay, now what that means is a whole sheer onto itself. But okay, so it doesn't mean that the Torah is going to start using slang because we use slang. That's not what it means. So the lisni chomer. So it says the Gemara, the lisni chomer b'makim and Kollel. So the lisni should teach chomer b'makim and a certain stringency that hitting someone has over cursing, and the Mishnah doesn't say it. What's that? Shehamaka asabo shelo ba'amcha kiba'amcha. Hitting somebody, you're liable even if the person did something which now makes him out of the fold. Mash einkin b'mekalel. So our Mishnah just taught you one stringency, that cursing is more strict than hitting. But the Brisa on the earlier Amud told us that by cursing, there's a special stipulation. It has to be somebody who's a ba'amcha, who's part of the nation, and didn't do something which excludes him from the nation. So why didn't our Mishnah teach that case? Hitting somebody is more stringent than in one way than cursing. It applies to every Jew across the board. And yet our Mishnah didn't teach that. So why not? So to that we say, Kisavar Makshinan Haka Klala. The Mishnah must hold that we compare Haka to Klala, and just like by cursing somebody, it applies to only people that are in the fold, we learn out to hitting somebody also applies to people that are in the fold, because the two parts of the parsha that are connected. Okay, so but at the end of the day, we still have two opinions. It sounds like, does hitting apply across the board, or is it compared to cursing and only applies to somebody who's in the fold? So, yeah, no, okay. So, lema hani tanai. So no, it's good. Make sure we're clear. So lema hani tanai. Maybe say these opinions, the Mishnah here and the Bryce on the bottom of the previous Amud, who argue about, does hitting somebody apply to only someone in the fold like cursing does, or though that's a special halacha by cursing and does not apply to hitting? What are they arguing about? So lema hani tanai. Say they argue like these tanaim.
Dress up for this.
Yeah, just very good. Where'd you get that coat? Custom made Lieutenant Laws. So lema hani tanai. Don't be scared. You could say. So lema. You should be a little scared, but whatever. So lema. It's Purim. Some say you're not liable for damages to another individual because of Purim. You did it out of the happiness of the day. So the happiness of the daf if I go like this. So lema hani tanai. So lema hani tanai. These opinions are like those opinions.
Or
so the
Tanya, or damage to yourself.
Or damage to yourself. Yeah. So lema hani tanai. The tani chada kuti. Okay, so now there's a group called the Kutis. The Kutis, yeah. And it's a whole story about them in Malachim. Yeah, it's the time of Sanhedrin. It's Malachim Beis, and this whole group of people that converted. Now the Gemara has in different places.
Right.
They're going to put in their conversion into question. It's either going to be called. Okay, let's see. So, Chada Kuti. So one opinion says the Tani Chada Kuti Atam Mitzav al Hakaso, a Kutian, however you pronounce it. Yeah, however article says it. So you're Mitzav al Hakaso. You're commanded. You're prohibited from hitting him. But you're not prohibited from cursing him. The Tanya Idach, and the other brisa says, So one brisa says you're only prohibited from cursing him, but not hitting him, and one brisa says you're not prohibited from cursing him or hitting him. So maybe that's going to be so now savruhu the kule alma kutim. These kutim are geirei emesein. Maybe you're going to hold that really when they converted, it was a good conversion, and therefore, what are the two brises arguing about? These two brises are arguing about our mission, our brisa. Do you compare hitting to cursing? What will be the practical difference if hitting applies to somebody who is in the fold, or it applies to even somebody outside of the fold? Maybe that's behind their machlokas, that these kutis did something wrong, therefore they're out of the fold. Yeah, they did. Originally, they were good, but now they did bad things to the Jewish people. So they so to speak, left the fold, and therefore you're only going to be liable for hitting and not for cursing. So it sounds like our mission in brisa is parallels these two opinions. Says the Gemara, no, not so fast. Why? Lo, the kuli amalo mashin hakol. Really, everyone holds you don't compare hitting to cursing. Hitting applies across the board. Cursing applies only to people that are in the fold. So what are they arguing about here? These two braisos are arguing about, are you liable for hitting the kuti or not? You're not liable on cursing, but are you liable on hitting them? What is that, machlokas? So so one opinion holds that they're gerei emes, they're good converts, and therefore you're liable for hitting them. Umar savar kutim gerei rayosein. Literally means converts of lions, but it means they converted out of fear. They converted out of fear. It wasn't a good conversion. Therefore, we didn't accept it. Therefore, you're not going to be liable. So, if that's true, that that's what we're arguing about, the previous brisa at the very end there said, where's that brisa? The brisa said, yeah. The brisa said, that's what if that's true, but it said the following halacha. The shoro ki Yisrael. So shoro ki Yisrael means that brisa that we just quoted, that you're not liable not for hitting them and not for cursing them, but it says there that his ox is the same as a Jewish ox, meaning if our ox gores his ox, or if his ox gores our ox, then you pay. You pay. If it's not a wild ox, you pay half the damage. If it's a wild ox, you pay the full damage. But by a non-Jew, by an idol worshiper, the Gemara Bava Kama penalizes them, and it says that if we gore their ox, we're exempt, and if they gore our ox, then they always need to pay a full price. So basically, if you're an idol worshiper, non-Jew, so then the rules are if your ox gores our ox, so then you're liable to pay full damage, even if it's a non-wild ox. And if we damage your ox, they got penalized, and they're in Bava Kama, and therefore we're not liable at all. But it's so if you're saying that that's the pshat over here, that they're really not really they're not really Jews. They didn't really convert. It was out of fear. So why does it say that their shore is like our shore, their ox like our ox? That only makes sense if they were really Jews. So it must be, we throw out the second suggestion, and the machlokas is really they hold it was a good conversion. And the question is, do you compare hitting to cursing? If you do compare it, then hitting applies only to people in the fold, and therefore, since they were bad to the Jews, they left the fold, so to speak, and you're not liable for hitting them. And if hitting is not compared to cursing, then hitting would apply to even the people that left the fold, so to speak, by being evil to the Jews. So those two opinions of this brisa parallels the opinions of our Mishnah and the brisa earlier. Okay.
Another interpretation. Lion-inspired convert means that they converted with great zealousness.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sure that's not what's intended, but it's another way that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe not out of fear, with a certain zealousness.
No,
okay. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, kidnapping. Very interesting. I did not have time to look into it properly, but there's certain stipulations here which really are fascinating. Hagonev nefesh miYisrael. So You get too excited on Purim, and you're gonev never chashov. No, God forbid. This you're liable for, even on Purim. If you steal another soul, if you go kidnap somebody, eino chayev achi achnisu l'rshuso. We'll see what this means. You're not liable until you bring him into your domain. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, achi achniseu l'rshuso. You have to bring him with your domain v'yishtamish bo. You have to use him in some way, make him work. So why would I say that? Like, kidnapping is kidnapping. He ties your shoe, he doesn't tie your shoe, he's still kidnapped, right? Shenamar, but the Torah says, his amir bo, it says you have to work him. His amir, the word omer, the Rashi means to use him. Some say, the Sefer Ksava Kabbalah says that the word omer coming up in a month from now, Spiras HaOmer is the same word as you have to work. You have to work your slave, you have to work during Spiras HaOmer to work up to Shavuos. Okay. His amir bo, you have to work him. It's fine. So that's that. You have to work him and then sell him. So now, Hagonev as Beno, one who kidnaps his own son. Rabbi Shmuel, Beno Rabbi Yochanan broken Mechayev. Of course, you're liable. The Chacham and Pochim, we'll see why. Don't worry, Jerry. You're not a nice guy. We're not going to, let you marry our daughter. I'm just saying, Pochim. Yeah, you're Pochim. Chacham and Pochim. Chacham say you are.
One works for me. I don't need it.
Yeah, okay, fine. So the Chacham and Pochim, they exempt you. That's the second case, second machlokas. Third machlokas is a ganav mishachet ebechet ben chorin. Interesting case. You have a slave, and then basically it's owned by two owners, and one frees him. So a slave is owned by two owners. So Jules and Steve go into the Daf Yomi slave business, and Steve said, "I've had enough of this." He frees the slave. So right. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, he's Jules, and he has to work for you. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he's off the hook. So, what if you steal that guy? So, Rabbi Yehuda Mechayev, the Chacham Pochim. Rabbi Yehuda says you're obligated, and the Chacham say you're exempt, and we'll see more why. Okay. First machlokas in the Mishnah was stealing somebody. Do you have to work him or not? So, Rabbi Yehuda brought a pasuk. The verse says you have to work him. So, Tanakama lo bai imur says the Gemara. What's Tanakama? The first opinion, you don't have to work him. Amar ba'acha brei Rava. No. Of course, Evan agrees you have to work him. The machlokas in the Mishnah is, what if he works for you less than a sheva pruta, less than the smallest amount that we usually take into consideration? Imur pachos and sheva pruta ika beinayu. Tanakama says you're not going to. Tanakama says you are going to be liable, and Rabbi Yehuda says you're not going to be liable. Right?
It's an interesting case for people that have just been kidnapped and locked up because they're not being used. They're just being abused.
What, here or in general?
In general, I mean, based on
where
we're at so far.
Right. Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. Like you kidnap somebody and you don't put him to work. You're really not liable for kidnapping. Okay. So we have to see, and also you have to sell him.
And this is
Now it could be that you're obviously liable for stealing somebody. The question is the death penalty of kidnapping, right? Seems to require at least right now three things. You have to steal, you have to work, and we're going to say that you have to sell him also. It's interesting. You have to see.
Will it come to just any benefit that you gain?
Any benefit that you gain, maybe.
this is an evident read, so as opposed to a.
Oh yeah, is that what it says?
It says in the very beginning, kidnaps a Jew. Does that hold for the whole paragraph?
It says Eved Ivri. It says
No, I'm just saying that it's.
Well, it's interesting because once you
So, yeah, like if a guy's half free, does he have to put on tefillin Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or and then the other days he's exempt?
That's actually a great question because usually we assume like this: if you get a Canaanite slave, so he has a process of conversion that he starts when he enters your domain. He's so he has the same rules, he's exempt from time-bound mitzvahs.
It's like a woman, right?
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? On those days,
They have half a breath.
does he have, when does he get that? He gets that when he enters or when he leaves. Yeah, I think 0 plus 0 is 0. So 2 half brisses get you 0. Yeah. Okay, that's good Purim Torah. Okay. Bayer Rabbi Yirmiyah, very good, Steve. Actually, have to Shemai today. So Bayer Rabbi Yirmiyah. Okay, Ganvo Machru Yashan. So you steal and you sell the person who's sleeping. You steal him while he's sleeping. So Mahu. What's the halacha? Meaning while he's sleeping. Okay, we'll see what that means in a second. Or Machar Isha Le'ubra. You steal a woman who's pregnant and you sell her because you want benefit from her fetus, not from her. So is that also meaning you stole and you sold, but you didn't sell her for her. You sold her for her fetus. Mahu. So the Gemara thinks right now, yesh derech imer b'kach or ein derech imer b'kach. Is that considered like you're working them? Like you said, like you're getting benefit from them? Yeah. So okay, is that considered the guy sleeping? So while he was sleeping, you took him and sold him and got some money. Is that like the same as working him, so to speak, getting benefit from him? Or not? So says the Gemara, no, of course not. The tapuk the lake imer cloud. No way. That's not considered working the person. No, when they're sleeping or selling for the fetus. No. The question's like this: Lo tzricha for the following case. Yashan de zaga aleha. A guy is sleeping, and you're leaning on him. So you stole the guy, he's sleeping, and now you're leaning on him. You're deriving benefit from him while he's sleeping. Is that considered working? It's not usual working. Working is he works for you, he gives you your clothing, ties your shoe for you, whatever it is. And now I was thinking of you because you're going to laugh when you hear this. Or an Isha, a lady who's pregnant, so it's very windy. So she's blocking the wind from you because she has a big tummy. So Isha de ukme ba'ape zika. So is using her tummy to block you from the wind. Is that considered derech imer? Is that also like, since you're using her, that's still considered like you're working her? Derech imer b'kach? Oh, ain't derech imer b'kach? Mai teku. So remember, when Eliyahu Navi comes, this should be the first thing you ask him. This question, because we don't know what it is until he comes. So yeah. T-rates Yishvi Kushus Vabayos.
The thought process here.
Yeah.
The wind.
Yeah.
For that one.
Meaning these are obviously categories of interesting kinds of benefits.
Yeah.
So, because remember, we're going to kill the guy if he checks all the boxes off. So we have to know.
Yeah. You
check all the boxes or not. So Tana Rabbanan. So Kiyimotze, I'm thinking maybe, well, what if you steal a slave and he's extremely heavy? And you do the same thing. You use him to protect you from, who knows what, from your next steeper, So Tana Rabbanan says the Brisa, says the Brisa says the pasuk ki yimatzei ish. So we're going to learn each part of this pasuk very nitty gritty, like usual. Ki yimatzei ish gonev nefesh. If you find an ish, a man who stole a nefesh, who stole a soul me'achav from his brethren, mibnei Yisrael. So now ki yimatzei ish gonev nefesh me'achav. Ainli ella ish shagana. It says if you find a man who stole. What about a woman? Now ish. So ella isha minayin. How about a woman? Sorry, you only found of a man who stole a man. However, how do you know if you stole a woman you're liable? Talmud lomar vigonev. No, the other way. I switched it.
If the woman who kidnaps.
Yeah, sorry. How do you know a woman who kidnaps is liable? Vigonev. It's coming to and the robber, including even a woman. So you know that now a man is liable and a woman is liable. Perfect timing. So is liable. So,
On cue.
On cue.
I was hoping we'd see you at least on par. So I want to hear you too, not just see. So Ainli Ella Ish Shaganav. Did you beat Charles here? He's walking and you took the car.
No, he's
coming. So okay. Ainli Ella Ish Shaganav. Bain Ish Ubain Ainli Ella Ish Shaganav. Bain Isha Ubain Ish. Now, whether a person steals a man or a woman, however, the Isha Shagan Va'ish. Thank you. It's getting more distracting as we go. Yeah. No. So okay. So Ish. Ainli Ella Ish Shaganov. We have a person who steals. In an ish shaganav bain isha ubain ish, whether a man or woman steals. Now the isha shagan ish, and we have a woman who steals a man, because that says in the pasuk ki matzi ish the gonev ish. It says the gonev is referring to the woman, ish is referring to the man. So you have a man who kidnapped a woman or a man, and you have a woman who kidnapped a man. Now isha shaganva isha minayin. Once again, to me it's fascinating that you have to learn this out from a verse. A person's a person. If you stole a person, you stole a person. Stole a man, you stole a woman. Okay. Either way, how do you know? Talmud lomar umei saganavahu mikol makom. Sounds like we have an extra umei saganavahu that any kind of ganav, anybody who you steal, you're going to be liable for. So whether your kidnapper is a man or a woman, and the kidnappee is a male or female, at the end of the day, you're going to be liable. Okay. Tanya Idach, another brisa says ki matzi ish gonev nefesh me'echav. So you stole somebody from your brethren. So now, echad agone v'esa ish ve'echad agone v'esa isha. Whether you stole a man, you stole a woman, you're liable. Ve'echad ger, you steal a convert, you're liable. Ve'echad evan meshuchar, you steal a freed slave, you're liable. Ve'katan, you're liable. A minor, you're chayiv. However, ganvo below machru, you stole him, but you didn't sell him. Machro va'adain yeshno bershuso, you sold him. However, he's still in your domain. He hasn't left your domain yet. Then you're patur. Okay. So if you stole him and didn't sell him, or you sold him but you did the transaction, but he's still at your house. He hasn't left your domain. You haven't given him over to the guy on Craigslist. So then you're going to be exempt. So
This sounds like in his own property.
I mean, the guy's still in your house.
The kidnapped thief
It's still in the guy's house,
in
right?
his own house.
Still in his-
Oh, he's still. How'd you steal him then? You stole him, but you didn't sell him. So you stole him. How'd you steal him then? If he stole his
The
own
victim
domain?
was imprisoned and sold to another person while he was
Uh-huh.
still on his own
Rishus
property.
haniknav atzon. Should I like this one?
Then
Uh-huh.
there's not
You
liability.
you kidnapped him. You locked up his house, whatever it is, and you haven't brought him into your own domain. Yeah, you're right. You're right. He's still in. Thank you. Thank you very much. He's still. That wasn't. Yeah, that was. You're right. You stole the guy, but he's still in his own domain. I mean, you locked him up and you surrounded his house with whatever it is, but you haven't brought him into your domain yet, or you put him in handcuffs, whatever, and you're just waiting. You know, he's in the back of the carriage, and you haven't put him into your house. Fine. So we're gonna go through each one of these cases, not to worry. So, yeah, not to worry. I know everyone's worried, but don't be worried.
After
So-
he said that,
Yeah. So machru la'aviv, if you sell him to your father, so machru of his father. Sorry, you sell him to his father. So or le'echav, or you sell him to one of his relatives, one of his brothers, or le'echem and akrovim, or one of his relatives. Chayiv, then you are liable. So whether you sold him to, we'll see what the novelty is. If you you kidnap a guy and sell it to his father, or to his brother, or to his relatives, you're still liable. Okay. Hagonif es ha'avadim, if you steal the servants, then you're patur. Now, what does it say about servants here? Does it say if it's Canaanite servants or Jewish servants? Doesn't matter. Doesn't differentiate.
yeah, it doesn't.
You know, 48. Okay.
The back. So I think
Well, I think the direction we've gone, it sounds like it's any kind of.
Okay. So let's see. Let's see if it makes a difference. Fine. Tani Tana Kamed Rav Sheshas. So the following teaching was taught in the name of Rav Sheshas. Amar Le Ani Shana Rabbi Shimon Omer.
the death penalty is not imposed for kidnapping a slave.
Right. Question: which slave? Probably referring to a Canaanite slave, because we'll see. Let's see. He says, "I taught in the name of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon Omer me'echav. It has to be you stole somebody from his brethren. What's from his brethren? Achiotzienu mirshus echav. Until you took him out of of the domain of his family. So that's what I said in the name of Reb Shimon. The at amris chayiv, and you said he's liable. So how could it be? According to Reb Shimon, if you didn't take him out of his domain, meaning what? He's still in the house? He's still in the house. So I taught in the name of Reb Shimon that you're chayiv, and you taught patur. So it says tini patur. Yeah, teach it that it's yeah, the atam is chayiv. So it says the Gemara. So tani patur, you should say that it's exempt. Says the Gemara, what are you asking? One's Reb Shimon and one's the rabbis. They could argue. Mai kusha dilma harab Shimon harabanan. Two opinions. If you steal a guy from his brethren, you have to remove him from the domain, or you steal him and he's still in his domain. Reb Shimon says you're liable. Rabbanan say you're not. A classic machlokas. What's wrong with that? So, lo sakaraka. Don't think that they argue. Why? The Rabbi Yochanan the following. Stam masnisin Reb Meir. When you have an anonymous Mishnah, it's going according to Reb Meir. Stam Tosefta. Tosefta is a form of brisos. Brisos are scripts that were from the Tanaic times, which Rabbi Yehuda Nasi left out of the Mishnah. That's where the word brisa. That's when the word bara. Bara means out. When the Israelis take the Arabs out of their homes, they say bara, out. Brisa means out. Things that were left out of the Mishnah. Fine. Rabbi Nechemia, Stam Sifra, in other section of Brisas, if it's anonymous, who's it going like? Rabbi Yehuda. And Stam Sifri, another form of Brisas, if it's anonymous in the Sifri, that's Reb Shimon. And all of them, the Kulu Aliba de Rabbi Akiva. So when you have anonymous teachings, right? So you have anonymous brisa here and a teaching of Reb Shimon. You don't want to say that they argue because the anonymous teaching is according to Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Shimon's also a student of Rabbi Akiva. So the likelihood is that they agree and that and they don't argue. So that's why we don't want to say that. Yeah. Okay, let's do a little more. Hagonev has beno, one who kidnaps his son. So that was a machlokas in the Mishnah. Are you liable or not? One opinion says you're liable, and the Chachamim said you are exempt. So obviously, one of the rabbis is much more novel. Why are you exempt? He's a Jew and you stole him, you kidnapped him. So my time with the Rabbanon, Amar Abaye, the Amar Kra, the verse says, Ki yimatze. You have to have found the person. Found him means somewhere else, and then you kidnapped him, excluding somebody who's already found by you. Prat lematzui. Going into his room and taking him is not considered like you found him. He's already found. He's living in your house downstairs, right? So says the Gemara, whoa, hold on. If that's what you're going to interpret the word yimatze, we're getting into big trouble over here. Why? Amalei Rav Papa Abaye. Rav Papa says to Abaye, element.
Parked with a car. Gray Lexus. You.
Gray Lexus.
Not you. I park where he usually parks.
What's my car turning to
So
My car's not a Lexus. I park where
Not
he
yet,
usually
not yet.
parks.
So for the Sina Shas, maybe get a Lexus. So Elameata ki yimatze. Now, if that's where the word yimatze is interpreted, has to be found somewhere else. So the following verse, ki yimatze ish, you found a man who is lying with a married woman. Im shochev im isha ba'ulas bal, who's married, right, doing something that is terrible. So it says the word yimatze there also. So hachanami, what are you gonna say? Ki yimatze prat lematzui. It's only if he goes and finds a woman, but not one that's usually with him. Why is she with him? Whatever, she works with him. Prat lematzui. That married woman you're allowed to be with? Of course not. Kegon shel beis ploni de shichan gabayu. So hachanami de ptiri? Of course not, because she's found by you. So how do you interpret the word yimatze by kidnapping like that? If you're going to interpret it like that, you have to be consistent. And if you're going to be consistent, it's going to make no sense by the section of illicit relations. So Amrle, no, I learned out from a different verse. Ana mi v'nimtza biyado kamina. There's another verse that says, an extra verse, that says it's found in my hand. Therefore, it has to be found in my hand, and therefore it's coming.
Well,
So-
when the gate is locked, you got to put the car somewhere. You know?
Yeah. So
Wow.
Amarava, don't worry, George, you're doing great. So Amarava, okay, so says the verse, that's for an extra verse. Extra verse teacher that has to be found in your hands, and therefore you're gonna be exempt for the son. Amarava Hilkach, therefore, Hani Mikri Dardiki, those students that go learn Torah, or Umasna Rabbanon, or the ones that are always by the rabbis, teaching them and learning from them. So that's Kimitsuyin Biyadan Damu Uptiri. So those, to kidnap those, you'd also be exempt because they're always with you. They're always learning with you. They're always around the rabbi's house. And therefore, they're going to have the same status as the son. And you'll be exempt. Fell a little behind, but don't worry about it.
Hey,
Or no worries.
very good. No worries.